Jim Willie, 58. Recent global shifts that are quickening the death of King Dollar. Jim says the world no longer respects the American dog, nor its British masters, and financial leader China, plus commodity producer Russia will rule after the fall by Jim Willie the golden jackass. Many are the turning points with individual nations, once firmly in the Western Alliance camp, but no longer. They are flipping eastward, or in the case of China cutting the major cords. The Shanghai developments are by far the most important in the financial setting. The petrodollar is seeing its last months, after a 43-year reign as de facto standard. Its retirement will begin in the East, then spread to the decaying loyal Western nations. The entire geopolitical chessboard is becoming more aligned with the Eurasian trade zone, one nation after another. Its cornerstones are Russia, China, and increasingly Iran. It has gathered some Eastern European countries like Turkey, and will gather more. It has pursued the Middle East oil monarchies, and will succeed in lassoing them into the zone corral. Whether they deploy financial connections, or trade ties, or security links, these nations no longer see the United States and British, who walk the American dog, with a monetary leash, as the leading global players any longer. The leaders are China with its financial and industrial might and Russia, with its energy and commodity strength. As the global structure shifts in alignment, many nations will be involved in the shifts directly. It can be perceived as chess pieces in movement. The many bilateral connections are being altered so as to fit within the new forces. The power center is moving from west to east, although certainly very slowly. Some call it a giant ship change in course, but the jackass thinks of it more as a very large baby being formed with numerous umbilical cords, which requires a very long gestation period, like that for an elephant. The eastern centers must remove the vestiges of old colonial power links. It is a very slow process, whereby the East must accept losses from the uprooted stanchions. The Eastern leaders measure their risks, make the changes, and consider the losses as part of a reorganization, much like done with the better observed structural changes done by IBM or Chrysler. Walls on all continents are seeing more clear graffiti. The writing is on the walls for the King Dollar, first relinquishing its dominant position, then soon permitting a peaceful coexistence with the Chinese RMB, and later suffering the ignominy of gradual more complete removal as global currency reserve. Expect next to see a wider recognition of the dual universe, with the USD pitted against the RMB, but without war. The current challenges are numerous, significant, and undeniable. The following nations are central to the global paradigm shift in progress. Cited are some key events in the shift. They have two themes in common: energy pacts, and financial flight from the King Dollar. The more full description with effects, angles, and players is included in the October hat-trick letter, now in the production phase. China leads in non-USD platforms. The Shanghai-based oil for gold futures contract has been heralded. Russian oil delivery to China has been paid in RMB terms. For 2 years, Russians use for bank offices in Beijing to redeem RMB in gold bullion. Numerous non-USD platforms are well along in usage. Numerous large construction projects have begun under One Belt, One Road. Several dozen countries are on board the MOBOR smorgasbord table. Not USA. The Eurasian trade zone is taking shape with Russian full lead cooperation. Saudi Arabia sheds the petrodollar. The Chinese have cut several energy and investment deals inside Saudi Arabia. The Chinese seek oil sales in RMB payment terms for Saudi oil. The Chinese are engaged in the ARAMC oil conglomerate IPO investment. The Russians and Saudis have signed military deals for missile defense. The Chinese and Saudis have signed military deals for missile defense. The Saudis have signed an energy supply deal with Russian Rosneft. The Saudis have entered into agreement with Russian oil consortium. Turkey reacts to failed US-led coup. The NATO forces from US and Europe have left the Incirlik Air Force base. US heroin from Afghanistan has been diverted from Turkey to Germany and Italy. Turkish government seeks coup participants hiding in Germany. Under their protection, Russians have resumed the large projects for nuke plants and natural storage centers. Russians have resumed the Turkish Stream pipeline to connect to Gazprom. Turkey's neighbor nations are cooperating in the pipeline construction. Turkey signed a big contract with the Russians for missile defense system. Germany resists Washington sanctions. Numerous German companies have worked to create Russian subsidiaries. German corporate executives have registered complaints to government officials. German government resists calls by Washington to make bigger NATO contributions. German government and companies howl in opposition to US government sanctions. United States logged sanctions against German companies on Nord Stream 2 project. Japan makes more Russian energy ties. Japan has joined several important non-USD platforms led by China. Japan has been working actively with Russia on LNG projects. Japan has been funding Russian oil pipelines and supply routes. Venezuela exits USD. Are completely. Caracas regime will conduct no further energy sales in USD terms. Regime is vulnerable to very large debts to Chinese, at risk of default. Regime signed contract with Russian Rosneft on supply deals. Venezuela requires sweet crude from foreign sources and mixture procedures. The Venezuelans have entered into agreement with Russian oil consortium. England seeks Eastern financials. The British exit has left the London centre vulnerable. The London passport has been removed. As London seeks new partnerships, London must recover from approximately 20% lost financial business. Suspicions rise for important financial partnership deals with Chinese government. Look for China to confirm greater currency and bond trading at London Hub. Look for London to possibly act as gold source agent for China in oil trade. Syria requests reconstruction. United States and Israel continue to secretly seize Leviathan energy deposit. Claims Syria continues to work toward completion of Iran gas pipeline. Earning U.S. anger. U.S. and Israel continued to use their ISIS tool in wrecking the Syrian economy. U.S. and Israel continued to use their ISIS tool in obstruction of natural gas pipeline. Syria seeks reconstruction funds and management from Russia and China. Australia contends with financial colonization. 15 years of heavy Chinese investment peaked in mining and port facilities. Australian government at edge of financial bankruptcy as a result of US-led arms purchases. They attempt to limit further Chinese investment, but Australia has become a Chinese commercial colony. The process involves both investment and residence. Singapore shifts toward Eastern Axis. The Singapore government has signed on to numerous Chinese-led non-USD platforms. An increasing number of trade deals have come with Beijing. They move slowly away from total US-UK alignment. Mexico fights bankruptcy. Mexican government in talks with Russian Rosneft for a large-scale oil deal. Mexico urgently needs funds for managing budget deficits. Mexico opened up offshore energy bids for foreign companies. Expect Rosneft to win some of the bids for new discovery concessions. Mexico openly discusses the silver standard for currency in their Congress.